Look at the food on your plate. Chances are it relies on just three crops: corn, wheat, and rice. We have built our entire modern civilization on these three pillars. But there is a problem. They are fragile. They are thirsty. And as the world gets hotter and drier, they are beginning to fail. But if you shift your focus to the scorched edges of the Sahara Desert, specifically across the arid belt of the Sahel, you will find an ancient backup plan waiting in the dirt. Here, in a landscape where corn withers and cattle starve, farmers have preserved a survival capsule for thousands of years. They call it the Bambara Groundnut. But that humble name does not do it justice. Think of it as a biological battery. While modern crops are addicted to chemical fertilizers, this plant rejects them. Instead, it captures nitrogen directly from the air and pumps it back into the soil, healing the earth as it grows. While other plants die without constant irrigation, this one seals itself underground, thriving in the blistering heat of sub-Saharan Africa on barely any water at all. But the real shock isn't how it grows. It is what is inside. Most plant proteins are incomplete. They are missing pieces of the puzzle. But this subterranean legume contains all 9 essential amino acids. It delivers a protein profile so balanced, so perfect, that it rivals animal meat. It is a complete meal locked inside a bulletproof shell. So here is the mystery that should keep you awake at night. We are facing a global food crisis. We are desperate for sustainable protein. Yet this perfect crop is almost invisible in the global market. You cannot find it in your grocery store. Big food companies don't put it in their products. Why would the world ignore a drought-proof, self-fertilizing superfood that could solve hunger tomorrow? The answer isn't because it's toxic. And it's not because it tastes bad. It is because this plant possesses a trait that modern industry hates. It cannot be easily controlled. They ignored it to protect their profits. But now, as the climate changes, we might have no choice but to dig it up. This is the story of the crop that was left behind and why it might be the only thing that saves us. Welcome to Ancestral Garden. If you care about clean food, healthy soil, and real self-reliance, subscribe to the channel right now. And before we go any further, take a second to write this in the comments: I choose food freedom. Write it clearly, because intention matters. And today, we are opening a new path. To understand why this survival capsule is missing from your dinner table, we have to look at the machinery of modern food. In the early 20th century, when industrial agriculture began to conquer the world, it had a specific craving. It didn't want nutrition. It wanted oil. The world powers needed cheap vegetable oil to make soap, margarine, and lubricants for their factories. They looked at Africa and saw 2 options. Option 1 was the peanut. It has a soft, fragile shell. You can crush it easily. It surrenders its oil without a fight. It was obedient to the machines. Option 2 was the Bambara Groundnut. The industrialists tried to process it, but they hit a wall. Bambara does not surrender. Its shell is incredibly hard, tough, and fibrous. It broke the early crushing machines. It required too much force, too much time, and too much patience to extract. So the industry made a cold, calculated decision. They didn't redesign their machines to fit nature. They tried to delete the plant. They pushed the peanut into every fertile valley. They built railways specifically to transport peanuts to the ports. They flooded the market with peanut subsidies. And Bambara. They gave it a new label. In the colonial agricultural reports, they branded it a subsistence crop, a polite way of saying it was only fit for the poor. This label was a death sentence for its reputation. Farmers were taught that growing peanuts meant progress and money, while growing Bambara meant staying backward. The crop was pushed out of the prime farmlands and banished to the harshest, driest edges of the continent. It was forced to survive in soils that were virtually dead. But the industrialists made a mistake. They thought that by ignoring it, they would kill it. They were wrong. By exiling Bambara to the desert, they didn't weaken it. They inadvertently trained it. They forced it to adapt to the most extreme conditions on Earth. While the pampered peanut forgot how to survive without irrigation, Bambara became a biological fortress. It learned to hoard nutrients. It learned to sleep through droughts. It learned to wait. They rejected it because it was too hard to crack. But that hardness is exactly what kept it safe for us today. To understand the true power of this exile, we have to stop looking at the history books and start looking at the biology. We have to look deep into the dark where the roots go. Most of the crops that feed the world are parasites. Corn, wheat, and rice are takers. They suck the nutrients out of the soil until the land is dead, requiring us to pump billions of dollars of synthetic fertilizers back in just to keep the cycle going. Bambara is different. It is not a taker, it is a giver. If you pull a Bambara plant out of the ground, you will see small pinkish nodules clinging to the roots. To a biologist, these are beautiful. They are microscopic chemical factories. Inside them, the plant hosts a symbiotic bacteria. It pulls nitrogen gas directly from the air, the same air we breathe, and converts it into solid organic fertilizer. It feeds itself. And when it dies, it leaves that nitrogen behind for the next generation. It effectively prints its own fuel. It is the closest thing to a perpetual motion machine that exists in agriculture. But the miracle isn't just in the roots, it is in the seed. Let's talk about the protein puzzle that has plagued humanity for centuries. For a long time, we have relied on grains like corn and rice. They are great for energy, but they are chemically broken. They are missing a critical piece of the puzzle called lysine. Without lysine, your body cannot build muscle effectively. You can eat a full bowl of corn and still starve at a cellular level. This is the hidden hunger that affects millions. Bambara solves the puzzle. It is flooded with lysine. It is rich in methionine. It contains the complete chain of 9 essential amino acids required to build human life. When you eat this nut, you are not just eating a vegetable. You are eating the chemical equivalent of meat, without the blood, without the feedlot, and without the massive water footprint. And how does it protect this nutritional treasure? It uses a strategy that borders on paranoia. After the flower is pollinated, the plant does something strange. It drives a stem down into the earth. It buries its own seeds. It hides its children underground to protect them from the blistering sun and the grazing animals of the savanna. It is a plant that knows it is living in a hostile world, and it has evolved to win. But biology is useless if you cannot eat it. A superfood is only a superfood if it can make it from the dirt to the dinner plate. And this brings us to the final barrier, the taste. There is a price to pay for perfection. In the world of fast food, we want everything easy. We want wrappers that tear open in a second. We want shells that crack with a pinch. But Bambara demands respect. If you hold a raw Bambara nut in your hand, it feels impenetrable. For centuries, this hardness was its curse. It is the reason why industrial machines rejected it. It is the reason why you can't buy it in a bag at the gas station. To get inside, you have to work. You have to pound it. You have to boil it. You have to wait. But for the people of the Sahel, that wait is a ritual because they know what is hiding inside. When you finally cook this stone, a transformation happens. It is a form of culinary alchemy. The bullet-hard seed softens. The texture changes from rock to something incredibly dense and smooth. Forget the oily crunch of a peanut. Bambara is different. When you bite into it, the flavor is complex. It is sweet, earthy, and nutty like a roasted chestnut crossed with a chickpea. But the real magic is the texture. It is creamy. It melts on the tongue like butter. This is not a light snack. It is heavy fuel. Because of that perfect balance of protein, healthy fats, and slow-burning carbohydrates, a single bowl of Bambara creates a feeling of fullness that lasts for hours. It is the kind of food that powers a farmer through a 12-hour day under the sun. It is the kind of food that keeps a village alive when the grain silos are empty. For generations, the colonial powers looked down on this. They saw women pounding these hard nuts in mortars and pestles and called it primitive. They called it the crop of the poor. But they were missing the point entirely. The locals didn't keep eating Bambara because they had to. They kept eating it because they preferred it. They knew that while the peanut was easy money, the Bambara was life. They were guarding a secret recipe that the rest of the world was too impatient to learn. But today, the world is changing. The climate that allowed us to be lazy is disappearing, and suddenly that hard shell doesn't look like a nuisance anymore. It looks like a shield. Now we face the final question. As our modern food system begins to crack under the heat, are we brave enough to pick up the stone we threw away? The future of food is not written in the stock markets of Chicago or the laboratories of Europe. It is written in the sky. As you listen to this, the world is getting hotter. The reliable rains that our ancestors counted on are disappearing. The water tables are dropping. The age of easy agriculture is over. In this new world, the crops we rely on, corn, wheat, and rice, are standing on shaky ground. They are thirsty giants in a drying world. And this is where the story of the Bambara Groundnut truly begins. It is no longer just a forgotten orphan. It is a prophecy. For thousands of years, while we were busy building industrial empires, this plant was quietly perfecting the art of survival. It was building a genetic vault capable of withstanding the heat that is coming for us all. It is the last line of defense. When the chemical fertilizers become too expensive, Bambara will still grow. When the irrigation pumps run dry, Bambara will still yield. When the supply chains break down, Bambara will still feed the village. So here is my challenge to you. Do not look at this crop with pity. Look at it with gratitude. The farmers of the Sahel didn't just save a seed for themselves, they saved a blueprint for humanity. If you have a patch of soil, no matter how poor, try to find these seeds. Put them in the ground. Watch them ignore the heat. Watch them heal your soil. And if you cannot grow them, at least remember their name. Demand diversity on your plate, because the most dangerous thing we can do is rely on a system that has no backup plan. The industry called it a weed. The history books called it a relic. But nature calls it the future. The storm is coming. But thanks to the stubbornness of the Bambara Groundnut, we might just have a lifeboat. This is Ancestral Garden. We are digging up the secrets they tried to bury. The next harvest is yours.